HFY Vanguard, where one human kiss can ignite 1,000 galaxies. This is not just science fiction. This is human passion written in the stars. The story begins now. The city of New Terran never slept. Its towers pulsed like veins of neon light beneath the smog-choked sky. From the rooftop of a decaying parking complex, Max Harker watched the chaos below. Hover lanes hummed with traffic, holographic ads flickered in alien tongues, and rain misted down, sizzling on the heat vents. He was a man built for quiet shadows, broad-shouldered hair, disheveled coat, soaked. A veteran once loyal to the Terran Defense Force, now a private detective surviving on favors and regret. His target tonight, a courier rumored to be smuggling the stellar heart, an artifact stolen from Madame Alarea's collection. A simple retrieval, or so the woman's velvet voice had promised. He'd heard that before. A glint of motion cut through the rain. A figure vaulted from a higher balcony, slim, fast, glowing faintly green under the ads. Max cursed and sprinted down the metal stairs. The chase crashed through market alleys filled with alien vendors. He glimpsed her again, emerald skin, short fiery red hair, a body wrapped in iridescent latex armor. She moved with impossible grace, sliding beneath a closing gate before he caught up. "Stop private security," he shouted. She turned wide-eyed, and for a heartbeat, confusion mirrored on both faces. Then she leapt forward and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. Her hands gripped his jaw. Her tongue pressed against his lips, and lightning exploded behind his eyes. For a stunned instant, Max's world dissolved into scent and taste. Ozone citrus, something metallic. He shoved her away on instinct, gasping. "What the hell was that?" She blinked, genuinely surprised. "Identification protocol. You are the Terran contact, aren't you?" Before he could answer, plasma bolts shrieked across the alley. They dove behind a crate as the wall exploded into shards of light. 3 mercenaries in matte black armor stormed in the sigil of Drav Morton Industries on their chests. "Guessing they're not fans," Max muttered, drawing his sidearm. "Move," the green-skinned woman hissed. She snapped her wrist, energy crackled into a compact pulse gun, and fired back with surgical precision. One merc went down, the other 2 scattered. Max followed her through the steam-filled corridor, firing cover shots. "Who the hell are you?" Thalia Vex, she shouted over the noise. "Field Agent Lyelian Heritage Division." "You weren't supposed to be early." "I wasn't supposed to get kissed either." They burst onto a maintenance bridge suspended above the Undercity. Sirens wailed. Below them, 1,000 alien lights shimmered like a sea of ghosts. A gunship roared overhead, searchlights cutting through fog. Thalia spun, fired 2 rounds into a power conduit, and the lights blew out. Darkness swallowed them. Only the faint glow of her skin remained. "This way," she whispered, grabbing his wrist. Max hesitated just long enough to feel the strange warmth radiating through her palm, then followed. They ducked into a cargo lift that plunged them deep beneath the street. When the doors hissed open, they were inside a forgotten subway tunnel, lit by pale fungus and flickering hollow ads from a bygone century. The silence was suffocating. Max finally exhaled. "Start talking." Thalia holstered her weapon and studied him curiously. "Humans are different up close. You emit more heat than expected." I said, "Talk, not flirt." Her lips curved. "Fine. I was retrieving the stellar heart before Morton's people could sell it. When I saw you, I thought you were the rendezvous contact. Among my people, the tongue exchange confirms identity, chemical, genetic, and emotional." Max rubbed his temple. "So the French kiss was your version of a handshake." "Precisely." He let out a breath that was half a laugh, half disbelief. "Next time, try waving." Her expression softened. "You didn't like it. Lady, it fried my brain." He paused, uneasy. "Actually, something feels off." It did. A faint pulse thrummed behind his eyes, and fragments of her emotions leaked through fear, urgency, a brief flash of sorrow. He staggered back. "What did you do to me?" Her gaze sharpened. "Impossible. The neural link shouldn't persist unless what? "Unless we share compatible synaptic frequencies," she murmured, stepping closer. "It's rare, very rare." Great! He'd just become telepathically entangled with an alien stranger who kissed like a lightning storm. A distant rumble echoed through the tunnel. Thalia's head snapped up. They're tracking us. Morden's mercs carry biosensed scanners. We need to move. They ran. Water dripped from the ceiling puddles, rippling under their boots. Max led her toward an old maintenance hatch he'd used before on stakeouts. Why is everyone so obsessed with this heart, he asked between breaths. It's not a gem, Thalia said, voice tight. It's a key, a navigation node from the human colony ship Prometheus, the first ship to vanish after the expansion war. Max almost tripped. Prometheus. My grandfather used to tell stories about that. Then you understand its value. Whoever controls its data controls the location of humanity's lost technology. Morden wants that power. They reached a rusted service door. Max jammed a crowbar under the latch, forcing it open into a side tunnel. He gestured for her to go first. She hesitated, watching him with those luminous eyes. You don't trust me. Trust wasn't part of the job. Yet you saved me back there, she said softly. Old habits, he muttered. Can't help rescuing trouble. Thalia smiled faintly. Among my people, we call that courage. Among yours, recklessness, yes. Exactly. They emerged into a vast chamber beneath the city, an abandoned transit hub, now converted into a black market bazaar. The air smelled of oil and alien spices. Vendors shouted in multiple dialects, oblivious to the two fugitives slipping among them. Thalia pulled up her hood. We'll find transport here. I know a pilot. Max scanned the crowd. You're not telling me everything. She glanced at him sideways. Neither are you. For a brief second, their eyes met, and the neural link flared again, images flashing between them. Max's war memories, Thalia's secret rendezvous, a green-skinned younger woman locked in a cage. They both gasped and looked away. Who was that? Max demanded. My sister, Thalia whispered. And that's all you get for now. Before he could press, a tremor shook the ground. Above them, police drones descended, beams slicing through the smoke. Someone had tipped off Morton's men. Thalia cursed in her native tongue. They're here. Max grabbed her hand. This way. They sprinted across the marketplace, dodging blasts. A crate of glowing fruit exploded beside them, showering sparks. Thalia vaulted a barrier. Max followed, firing at the drones until one crashed into a stall of alien fabrics. A hoverbike waited at the far end, sleek black, humming with stolen energy. Thalia jumped on, motioning him to get behind. You sure this thing flied? Only one way to find out. The engine screamed to life, launching them into the stormy night. Wind tore through Max's hair as the city streaked past, a blur of light, steel, and chaos. He clung to Thalia's waist, feeling the subtle vibration of her body, the faint luminescence of her skin reflecting off the rain. Despite the insanity, part of him couldn't ignore the electricity between them, both literal and emotional. Where to? He shouted. Somewhere safe, she yelled back. Somewhere we can talk without bullet. Then you better drive fast, because I've got a lot of questions. She glanced over her shoulder, eyes gleaming. And I've got a lot of answers. If you can survive the night. Behind them, explosions lit the skyline. Morton's ship unleashed interceptor drones. The hoverbike swerved between traffic streams, weaving through arcs of plasma fire. Max drew his pistol, firing backward. One drone detonated. Two more gave chase. Thalia banked hard, diving into a service tunnel. The bike skidded, sparks flying, then burst out into a hidden docking bay beneath the river. They slid to a stop beside a flickering neon sign that read Cafe Eclipse. Your safe house is a coffee shop, Max asked, incredulous. Best in the sector, she replied, breathless. Also shielded against surveillance. He climbed off, boots splashing in shallow water. His pulse still thundered from adrenaline and maybe from her proximity. Next time, he said, holstering his gun, warn me before you kiss me, shoot at me, or telepathically link with me. Thalia's smile was small, but genuine. No promises human. They stepped inside the dim cafe, bioluminescent orbs floating above the tables. For a moment, the chaos outside felt far away. The hum of the city softened, replaced by the steady rhythm of their uneven breaths. Max looked at her, at the rain glittering on her emerald skin, at the strange familiarity between them born from an impossible mistake. All right, he said finally, voice low. Let's start over. Thalia extended her hand with exaggerated formality. I'm Thalia Vex. He took it. Max Harker. And next time you want to say hello, he leaned forward, slightly teasing. Try a handshake. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in an alien breeze. But where's the fun in that? Outside, thunder rolled through New Terran, echoing like a promise. Neither of them knew that the stolen artifact, the neural bond, and that reckless kiss had already set in motion events that would shake the galaxy. The Cafe Eclipse looked nothing like a safe house. It was a hole in the wall tucked beneath a crumbling transit viaduct. Bioluminescent bulbs floated lazily over tables carved from repurposed ship hulls, and the smell of 20 different species caffeine substitutes hung thick in the air. Thalia guided Max to a booth in the corner, shielded by a privacy field that shimmered like heat haze. When the noise outside dimmed to a murmur, Max finally let the tension slip from his shoulders. "Coffee," he said, dropping onto the seat. "Actual non-synthetic if you've got it." Thalia raised an eyebrow. "You humans and your bitter rituals?" Still, she ordered 2 cups. Hers glowed a faint violet, his steamed like molten asphalt. For a long moment, neither spoke. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving a fragile quiet between them. Max studied the alien woman across from him, the shimmer of her green skin, the geometric tattoos along her collarbone, the way her eyes reflected light like liquid jade. He reminded himself she had kissed him before even knowing his name, and that somewhere in the city, heavily armed mercenaries were looking for both of them. Thalia broke the silence first. "I owe you an apology. Among Lyellians, tongue contact is the standard greeting. But I underestimated human boundaries." Max smirked. "Boundaries is one word for it. On Earth, that kind of hello usually requires dinner first." She tilted her head amused. "You'd be surprised how often interspecies diplomacy has failed because of misplaced lips." He couldn't help a laugh. Then the humor faded, replaced by the memory of that electric pulse still humming faintly at the edge of his consciousness. "About that, I'm still feeling something, like echoes in my head." Her expression turned wary. "That it shouldn't happen. The link was meant to last seconds, just enough for identification. If it persists, it means our neural patterns are compatible." "Compatible how?" She hesitated. "In Lyellian terms, bonded. We can sense each other's emotions. Pain, fear, attraction." Max froze cup halfway to his lips. "Great. So you're basically inside my head." "Only if you let strong emotions surface," she smiled faintly, "which, judging by your heartbeat, you are doing right now." He set the cup down a bit too hard. "Let's stick to business, shall we?" Thalia nodded, though her amusement lingered. "The stellar heart. You know it's not just a jewel." "Yeah, you said it's a key to a lost ship. Prometheus." Her fingers traced a glowing pattern in the condensation on her glass. "The heart holds navigational data, encoded in photonic layers. It leads to a human colony ship that vanished 2 centuries ago, rumored to carry pre-collapse technology powerful enough to rewrite galactic balance." Madame Alaria said nothing about that, Max muttered. "Typical client, pretty face half the truth." Thalia's eyes sharpened. "You worked for Alaria. Until about 5 hours ago, she hired me to retrieve the heart. Didn't mention it could start a war. That explains the mercenaries. Morden wants it for the Krex Dominion. They see humanity's rise as a threat." Max leaned back. "Everyone does. We show up late to the galactic parties, start inventing faster fighting, harder feeling more. It scares people." Thalia studied him quietly. "Maybe it fascinates them. Your species burns so bright it forgets to fear the dark." Something in her tone made his chest tighten. He masked it with sarcasm. "So which are you, fascinated or terrified?" Her smile was small and readable. "Both." A flicker of motion drew her gaze to the window. 2 armored figures lingered outside, scanning the street with glowing visors. Thalia's shoulders stiffened. "Morden's trackers. We have to move." Max finished his coffee in one swallow. "Lead the way." They slipped through the cafe's back corridor into a maze of service tunnels. The hum of the privacy field faded, replaced by dripping pipes and the distant throb of turbines. Thalia moved with predatory grace. Max followed weapon ready. As they walked, she spoke softly. Before Alaria became a collector, she was part of the Galactic Heritage Council. She betrayed them, sold artifacts to the highest bidder. The stellar heart was stolen from her vault 2 nights ago. I was sent to recover it and to make sure she never got it back. "By who?" She hesitated, then said the Heritage Agency. Officially, unofficially, I don't know who I work for anymore. Max caught the flicker of exhaustion in her posture, the strain behind her confidence. Through the neural link, he felt it too, fear-guilt, something heavier. You're running from more than mercenaries. Thalia gave a humorless laugh. You're perceptive human. Occupational hazard. They reached an exit ladder leading to the street. Rain hammered above. Before climbing, she paused facing him. There's something you should understand about the Lyalian greeting. It's not random. It reads emotional truth. When I kissed you, I tasted honesty and pain. You've lost someone. Max stiffened. The image of a woman flashed, unbidden dark hair, a laugh swallowed by static, a shuttle exploding in orbit. He forced the memory down. That's none of your business. Her voice softened. Maybe not, but it explains why you hide behind sarcasm. Are you psychoanalyzing me now? Just observing the human I accidentally bonded with. He stared at her for a beat, then shook his head. You aliens are insufferable, and you humans are impossible. She climbed the ladder first. They emerged onto a rain-slick rooftop overlooking the industrial district. Below, neon reflected off puddles like shattered galaxies. Thalia's comm device chirped, a hologram flickered, showing a young Lyalian female with chains around her wrists. Thalia's breath caught. Your sister, Max asked quietly. Yes, Letha. Morton captured her to ensure my obedience. Her voice trembled. He implanted a control node in me, tracks my vitals, my location. If I disobey orders too long, he'll know. So you were working for him. I didn't have a choice, she met his gaze. Now you see why I need the heart. It's leverage. If I bring it to him, he frees her. If I don't, she looked away. He sells her to the Void Walkers. Max weighed the confession. The old instinct screamed trap, but the link pulsed with raw terror, too real to fake. He holstered his pistol slowly. All right, you get your sister back. I get the heart safe. After that, we part ways. Thalia nodded, relief flickering through the bond. For now, we need allies. I know a few, he said. Underground dealers who owe me favors. She smiled faintly. Then we're partners. Temporarily. Thunder rolled overhead as they crossed a narrow catwalk toward the distant glow of the central spire. From here, New Terran looked almost beautiful, a fusion of alien geometry and human ambition. But beneath that splendor, danger thrived. They stopped under a flickering sign to plan their next move. Max tapped coordinates on his wrist pad. There's an auction tonight. Obsidian Nexus. Rumor says Morton will be there to buy the heart. Thalia's eyes widened. Then that's where we'll take it back. You're insane. Probably, but are you coming? He met her gaze. Through the neural haze, he felt her determination burning bright, contagious. Hell, he said with a grin. I've followed worse plans from a prettier woman. Flattery noted. She turned cloak, flaring in the wind. Get ready, human. Tomorrow the galaxy remembers our names or our ashes. As they vanished into the night, Max couldn't shake the irony. A few hours ago, he'd been chasing a paycheck. Now he was chasing an alien thief with whom he shared a heartbeat. Somewhere deep inside, the bond pulsed again, two souls out of sync, yet moving toward the same storm. And for the first time in years, Max Harker felt alive. Rain hammered the glass like static when Max Harker sealed the door behind them. His apartment perched on the 23rd floor of a weather-stained tower where human and alien tenants coexisted uneasily. The space was utilitarian, a couch, a wall of half-working screens, and a shelf stacked with relics from his former life in the Terran Defense Force. The only luxury sat on the counter, a bottle of Earth-made bourbon imported at ridiculous cost. Nice place, Thalia said, scanning the room with curious eyes. Her skin reflected the flickering lights from the skyline outside. Better than the street, Max replied. You drink only if it glows, she teased. He poured amber liquid into 2 glasses. This burns instead. Thalia sniffed, tasted, winced, then laughed, a light chiming sound that softened the edges of his exhaustion. It's pain in liquid form, she said, and yet oddly pleasant. Story of human life, Max murmured. For a while, the war of the world outside faded. They sat across from each other, the quiet filled only by the hum of the city and the faint resonance of their neural link. He felt her curiosity probing, not invasive but intimate, a silent pulse that mirrored his heartbeat. You still haven't told me why a heritage agent was stealing from a collector, he said. Thalia set her glass down. Because I'm not a heritage agent. Not anymore. He waited. She took a breath. Morden forced me to work for him. My sister Letha, he took her months ago. The implant in my head broadcasts my vitals. If I resist, she suffers. If I disobey too long, he'll sell her to the Void Walkers. Her voice cracked on the last words. Through the link, Max felt the tremor of fear, like a cord striking his chest. He stood paced to the window. The skyline flared with lightning. You used me to get closer to the heart. I used everyone, she admitted quietly. Until you. Max turned. That's supposed to make me feel special. I don't want you dead, she said simply. That's new for me. He studied her, torn between anger and the strange empathy coursing through their bond. She wasn't lying, and he could taste the truth in the ache behind her calm. We'll get your sister out, he said at last. You'd help me after everything I've been betrayed by better, he said dryly, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Besides, if Morton wants this heart, I need to know why. Thalia's gaze softened. Humans, always chasing the reason instead of the exit. It's how we survive. Silence settled again. She stood, walked to the window. Neon reflected across her skin, painting galaxies on emerald. Do you ever stop missing Earth? She asked. He hesitated. Only when I'm drunk enough. Her eyes met his. Tell me. He almost refused, but the link betrayed him, pulling memories to the surface. A shuttle bay, the scream of tearing metal, the face of a woman, dark hair, smile frozen in fear as her ship disintegrated above the Martian front, the smell of burning ozone, the guilt that never left. She was my navigator, he said hoarsely. We trusted a ceasefire that wasn't real. I lived. She didn't. Thalia's voice softened. You carry ghosts. Don't we all? She stepped closer, her aura brushing his like a second heartbeat. Among my people, we share breath to ease pain. Would you let me try? He should have said no, but he didn't. The kiss began like deja vu, cool lips, spark of static, then warmth spreading through his veins. This time it wasn't confusion or protocol, it was understanding. He tasted her fear, her determination, the depth of her loneliness. In return, she felt his guilt, his buried tenderness. The links surged, their thoughts blurring, until neither knew where one ended and the other began. When they finally broke apart, the bourbon burned less in his throat. That, he murmured, wasn't standard therapy. No, she admitted, smiling faintly. But effective. They ended up on the couch, conversation dissolving into quiet. Outside, thunder rolled. At some point, the city's light bled into dawn, and exhaustion pulled them both into sleep, tangled in each other's arms. Max woke to silence, cold sheets. The indentation where she had lain was empty. Thalia. No answer. He sat up fast. The faint hum in his head was weaker, as if the bond were stretching thin. On the coffee table lay his datapad screen flashing red, his case files gone. He cursed under his breath, grabbed his weapon. Before he could move, the comm unit on his nightstand chimed. The caller ID glowed, Madame Alaria. He considered ignoring it, then swiped to accept. A hollow projection shimmered into existence, the lavender skin collector draped in silk's eyes like liquid silver. Detective Harker, she purred. So glad you're still breathing. I was beginning to think our little arrangement ended with a bang. Working the case, he said flatly. Your artifact's at the center of a shooting gallery. Yes, and now my competitors have an advantage thanks to your companion. What companion, he asked, though his gut already knew. Alarea's smile cut like glass. Thalia Vex. She never worked for me. She's Morton's pet operative. The Lyellian siren who seduces her way into secrets. Don't tell me you actually fell for her. Max's stomach nodded. She said you were selling weapons tech, half-truths. I collect artifacts. Morton weaponizes them. He wants the Prometheus coordinates to tip the Dominion War. You, detective, were his convenient access point. He clenched his fists. Why tell me this? Because I dislike seeing talent wasted. You've been played Harker, but you still have something they don't: instinct. Find the heart before they do, and perhaps humanity keeps its fragile seat at the galactic table. Her image flickered. Oh, and one more thing. She stole the tracking algorithm embedded in your pad. Every contact, every black market route you've ever mapped. She handed Morton a key to your entire network. The call ended. Max stood motionless, fury and disbelief twisting together. The link inside his skull throbbed faintly like a heartbeat fading with distance. He wanted to rip it out, to forget the feel of her lips, the truth he'd tasted. Instead, he grabbed his coat and gun. "You want to play games, Thalia," he muttered. "Fine, let's see who wins." Hours later, he stalked the lower levels of New Terran, the labyrinth where information was currency and loyalty expired hourly. He questioned smugglers, bribed data dealers, even threatened an old informant who once hacked orbital defense codes. Piece by piece, the trail rebuilt itself, obsidian nexus and underground auction that catered to the galaxy's elite. That was where the stellar heart would reappear. As he prepared to leave, the neural link pulsed again, briefly, faintly like a whisper in his mind. "I'm sorry." He froze. Thalia, no answer. Only static, but the emotion came through regret and fear. He closed his eyes, jaw tight. Despite everything, part of him still believed her. Maybe she'd lied about everything except the sister. Maybe she'd wanted out. Or maybe he was just a fool chasing ghosts with pretty eyes. Either way, he would find her and the heart. That night, the skyline glittered under a new moon. Max stood before a mirror, adjusting the collar of a formal suit borrowed from a contact in the diplomatic corps. It felt wrong on him, too clean, too civilian, but it would get him through the Nexus's scanners. He checked his sidearm, hidden under the jacket. The reflection staring back looked calm, but his pulse betrayed him. "Rule 1, he muttered, echoing his old commander. "Never mix business with attachment." He almost laughed at how far past that line he'd gone. Outside, thunder echoed like artillery. Somewhere beyond those clouds, Thalia Vex was walking into the same firestorm, either as enemy or as something far more dangerous. Max stepped into the elevator and hit the roof access. The hunt for the stellar heart had become more than a job. It was personal now, a matter of pride, justice, and maybe redemption. As the doors closed, he whispered to the empty cabin, "You kissed the wrong human, Thalia. This time I'm coming for answers." The Obsidian Nexus lay hidden beneath a decommissioned space elevator terminal on New Terran's eastern rim, a glittering vault where the galaxy's wealthiest traded in sins wrapped as souvenirs. Its corridors were carved from black obsidian, shot through with veins of blue light. Music pulsed like a heartbeat underfoot. Max Harker arrived dressed as a man who belonged there. The suit fit barely. His forged credentials read Dr. Thomas Blackwood, Terran Historical Society. He handed the chip to a towering doorman whose eyes glowed amber. "Welcome, Doctor. Enjoy the evening." He stepped inside, every instinct screaming trap. The crowd was a zoo of the galaxy's predators. Bankers, smugglers, nobles, even a few diplomats who would deny being here tomorrow. Hollow cases displayed artifacts glowing behind stasis fields, a Terran violin, a pre-warp navigation module, the broken hilt of some long-forgotten alien sword. And then he saw her. Thalia Vex, the alien thief who had kissed him into chaos, stood radiant in a silver gown that caught the light like flowing mercury. She laughed at something a collector said, head tilting, just so poised, perfect, dangerous. The neural link between them flared faintly. She had to feel him watching. Max approached casually, pretending to study a case of ancient Earth communication devices. "The iPhone 15, he said, voice low. "Legend says it could barely last a day on one charge." Thalia froze. Slowly, she turned the smile on her lips, practiced brittle. "You shouldn't be here." "Funny," he said, eyes steady. "I was about to say the same thing." Before anyone could notice the tension, she seized his arm and guided him into a side corridor. Her grip trembled. "Morton's here," she hissed. "And so are his enforcers. I'm touched, you warned me. Seeing as you robbed me blind." She flinched. "You don't understand, then make me." Her eyes flicked around, verifying they were alone. Then she produced a small disc and pressed it to his wrist. A hologram blossomed between them, a young Lyalian girl, chained in a sterile cell, eyes wide with terror. "My sister Letha," Thalia said quietly. "He took her to make me obey. If I fail him, he sells her to the Void Walkers." The image faded. For a long moment, neither spoke. The link between them hummed with fear and shame, too raw to be faked. Max exhaled. So that's why you ran? She nodded. He's bidding tonight. We have to steal the heart before he gets it. Where is it? Vault level 3. Controlled by the auction master Prel biometric locks. Max's mouth quirked. Then we borrow Prel's face. They separated. Thalia slipped back into the crowd, the perfect distraction. Max moved toward the bar, timing his approach. When Prel passed, Max accidentally spilled a drink across the alien's immaculate robes. The resulting outrage masked everything Max's apologies, the handshake and the tiny scanner built into his cufflink that captured a retinal pattern and voice sample. Minutes later, the chaos from that accident spread. Valyrian guests shrieking at insult, security distracted. Max slipped into the service tunnels and met Thalia near a freight lift. Got it, he said, showing her the chip. Retina voice, even a DNA smear from his glass. Her eyes widened. You truly are human, reckless beyond sense. Compliment accepted. Lead the way. The vault level was a cathedral of silence. 2 security droids patrolled, sensors humming in perfect rhythm. Thalia studied their pattern, counting under her breath. 3-minute loop. We move on 2. On her nod, they dashed forward, hugging the shadows until they reached the central door. Max pressed the stolen chip to the scanner. Voice authorization Prel override sequence. A pause, then a melodic chime. The door slid open. Inside, treasures slept in transparent cells. Jewels, weapons, memory crystals. But the one they sought pulsed softly at the far end, a gem no larger than his thumb shifting from blue to gold as though breathing. The stellar heart, Thalia whispered. He deactivated the stasis field with a flick of the handheld disruptor. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then he lifted it carefully. No alarms, he murmured. Either we're lucky or... Sirens shrieked. Jinxed, he finished. Someone breached the main floor. Thalia said, scanning her device. Morden. Max stuffed the heart into an insulated pouch. He must have triggered the failsafes. They sprinted into the corridor as guards thundered past in the opposite direction. Smoke drifted down from above. Panic erupted on every level. Blaster fire echoed like drum beats. This way, Thalia shouted. They ran through a maze of maintenance tunnels until a squad of Krex mercenaries blocked their path, gray-skinned giants with bone ridges and too many weapons. Max fired first. The corridor lit in blue-white flashes. Thalia moved like a storm, every shot, precise, her dress shredded to ribbons that revealed combat armor beneath. When the last merc fell, the smell of scorched metal filled the air. Remind me never to make you angry, Max said. Remind me never to wear silk to a gunfight, she shot back. Another alarm wailed. Backup incoming, he warned. She yanked open a hatch labeled Bio-Waste Disposal. You're joking. Best exit on this floor. Ladies first. She gave him a look. Age before beauty human. They dove into darkness. The chute angled down slick and steep, ending in a pile of decomposing vegetation that cushioned their fall with a smell that defied language. Max gagged. If I die, bury me somewhere that doesn't smell like alien cabbage. Thalia was laughing too hard to answer. They emerged into the undercity, a sprawl of pipes, fog, and flickering neon. Above the nexus burned, below life carried on indifferently. Max wiped grime from his face and checked the pouch, still glowing faintly. Now what, he asked. Now, Thalia said, catching her breath, we find someone who can read it. He nodded. I know a tech who can. Old friend paranoid as hell. She'll help us. She owes me her life and hates Morton more than I do. Perfect, Thalia said. Lead the way. They navigated the Undercity's labyrinth for an hour, slipping between gangs and scavengers, until they reached a flickering sign that read, Chase's Tech Repairs. Max knocked 3 times. The door opened to reveal a woman with steel gray hair and oil-stained hands. Max Harker, she said flatly. You look like hell. He grinned. Good to see you too, Chase. Her eyes flicked to Thalia, Lyelian. You've finally found a woman more trouble than you. She's with me, he said simply. Obviously, Chase sighed. Get inside. The workshop was a chaos of half-disassembled drones and ancient consoles. When Max produced the stellar heart, Chase's sarcasm died. She took it gingerly, Do you realize what this is, Trouble Max said. Galactic scale. She connected it to a scanner. Symbols danced across the monitors. This thing's more than a key. It's an entire navigational matrix, maybe a map to that lost colony ship of yours. Thalia leaned in, eyes bright. Can you decode it? Already started. But there's something else. The holoprojector flared, showing a man in a Terran uniform centuries old. His voice filled the room, steady and solemn. If you've found the stellar heart, you are of my blood or my kin and spirit. I am Captain James Harker of the colony ship Prometheus. We vanished by choice to guard what should never again be used for war. If humanity is hearing this, remember power is a test. Fail it and you lose yourselves. The image faded, silence followed. Max stood frozen, staring at the spot where the hologram had been. James Harker, he whispered. My ancestor. Before he could process it, the shop's alarm howled. Chase glanced at the monitor. Companies here, Krex, Mercs, dozen at least. Thalia's hand went to her weapon. Morden found us. Max looked at Chase. Can you stall them? She tossed him a data chip. Coordinates are on there. Get to the Prometheus. If anyone deserves to find that ship, it's you. What about you? Someone's got to delay the welcome party, she winked. I'll make it noisy. Max hesitated only a second before grabbing Thalia's hand. Come on. They sprinted to the hangar bay. Behind them came the roar of explosions, Chase's version of a goodbye. The small shuttle was old but functional. Thalia jumped into the co-pilot seat, fingers flying across the console. As the engines whined to life, Max looked back at the smoke billowing through the corridor. She'll make it. Thalia's expression was grim. She knew the odds. She always does. The bay doors opened, revealing the storm-lit skyline. Enemy ships were already descending, spotlights piercing the night. Ready, he asked. Thalia glanced at him, a spark of defiance in her smile. Always. The shuttle blasted upward through the chaos, streaking toward the stars. Below them, the obsidian nexus burned, and Chase's final explosion lit the clouds like dawn. As they cleared atmosphere, Max checked the data chip glowing in his hand. Coordinates pulsed faintly, a path through uncharted space. Prometheus, he said. Thalia nodded. Your ancestor's ghost awaits. And for the first time since this nightmare began, hope didn't feel like a lie. The shuttle tore through the upper atmosphere, its hull rattling under the strain. Lightning flashed across the cockpit canopy, painting both their faces in momentary white fire. Max gripped the controls, teeth clenched. Thalia sat beside him, eyes fixed on the holographic coordinates Chase had decrypted, an invisible path threading through the star field. Once they cleared New Terran's orbit, the darkness unfolded. No traffic lanes, no patrols, just stars, cold, endless, indifferent. Thalia exhaled slowly. We're clear. Max didn't answer right away. He'd been running on instinct, but now the weight of it hit him. Chase was gone. His last friend. And he hadn't even looked back long enough to see her die. Chase bought us time, he muttered. Let's make it count. Thalia nodded, sensing the ache through their neural link. She knew what she was doing. Among my people, dying for a cause greater than yourself is the highest form of honor. Among mine, Max said, it's usually called bad luck. She smiled faintly, but her eyes stayed on the viewport. Humor as armor, classic human reflex. He gave her a sideways look. You analyzing me again, Dr. Vecht? Just observing the strange species I accidentally bonded with. For a while, they flew in silence, only the hum of the engines and the faint whisper of hyperspace currents filling the void. The stellar heart floated in its containment field between them, pulsing softly like a living heartbeat. Its glow reflected on Thalia's skin, outlining her profile in gold. So Max said at last, tell me about your sister. Thalia's voice dropped soft and brittle. Letha was the clever one. She wanted to study xenobiology at the Galactic University. She believed in peace. When Morden came, she thought she could negotiate. He saw her compassion as weakness. You tried to fight him. I tried to kill him, she corrected. I failed. He took her and chained me with her life. Max's jaw tightened. We'll get her back. She turned toward him, surprise flickering across her features. You mean that? Of course I do. Humans have a thing about family, even when it's someone else's. Her smile this time was genuine. You're a strange man, Max Harker. I've been called worse. Hours bled into the silence of space. Thalia eventually fell asleep in her seat. exhaustion catching up. Max watched her for a while, the soft rise and fall of her chest, the faint luminescent lines that pulsed under her skin. It was hard to believe she'd once been his enemy, harder still to remember that she might still be. He glanced at the stellar heart. The glow seemed to sync with his pulse, and he wondered if his ancestor Captain James Harker had ever felt this same mix of awe and dread before disappearing into legend. The navigation AI chirped softly, approaching coordinates. Thalia stirred awake. Already almost. Chase's data says the Prometheus should be dead center of that nebula ahead. Out the viewport spread a vast curtain of cosmic light, a nebula of swirling violet and gold gases dense enough to hide a continent. Lightning arced silently within it like veins of a sleeping god. Thalia leaned forward, whispering, "Beautiful. Beautiful things usually kill you," Max replied. "Strap in." He guided the shuttle through the ion clouds, the stellar heart glowing brighter, as if guiding them. Then through the haze, a shape emerged, massive, ancient, awe-inspiring. The Prometheus. A colony ship the size of a city, its hull scarred but intact, drifting in slow rotation. The Terran insignia was still visible on its flank, half buried under centuries of dust and starlight. Yet parts of it glowed faintly, systems still alive. "My God," Max breathed, "she's still running." "That's impossible," Thalia whispered. "No vessel could maintain power that long." "Well," he said, easing the shuttle into a docking vector, "let's go find out what kind of miracle we just walked into." The docking bay opened as if expecting them. Lights flickered on in sequence, guiding the shuttle into a smooth landing. The airlock sealed with a metallic hiss. Max grabbed his sidearm and motioned for Thalia to stay behind him. The corridor beyond was pristine, too pristine. "Someone's been here," he muttered. "Or never left," she said. They moved cautiously through the silent halls. The architecture was unmistakably human, but overlaid with something alien, veins of glowing circuitry running like ivy across the walls. The air was clean, warm, breathable. "How the hell is life support still active?" Max asked. Thalia traced one of the glowing patterns with her fingers. "This isn't Terran technology. It's self-healing biomechanics. Someone integrated alien tech into the ship's system centuries ago." They reached a central atrium filled with hydroponic gardens still flourishing under artificial sunlight. Max stared at the greenery. "This ship's been alive all along." "More than alive," Thalia murmured. "It's evolving." Before he could respond, a voice rang out, "Don't move." They turned. A young woman stepped from the shadows, blaster aimed at them. Her skin was green, her eyes wide and terrified. Thalia gasped, "Letha." The weapon wavered. Thalia, in two strides, they were in each other's arms. Thalia's relief washed through the neural link, nearly knocking Max off his feet. He looked away, giving them a moment. "How the hell did you get here?" he asked finally. Letha pulled back, eyes glistening. "They brought me. Said my sister would come. Who's they?" The answer came in the echo of approaching footsteps. Two groups emerged from opposite corridors. On one side, Madame Alaria flanked by her silver-armored guards. On the other, Drav Morton and his Krex mercenaries, their heavy weapons humming. Detective Harker, Alaria said smoothly, "I see you found our lost treasure." Morton's smile was all teeth, and saved me the trouble of tracking it. Max stepped in front of the sisters. "Should have known you two were working together." "Working," Alaria laughed softly. "Competing for the same prize." Morton's eyes gleamed. "The adaptive defense matrix. The Prometheus's true cargo. A system that learns every weapon it faces and counters it instantly. A perfect shield. A perfect weapon." Thalia's voice was cold. "You'd turn it into a tool for war." "And you wouldn't," Alaria countered. "You humans are spreading across the stars like wildfire. Balance must be maintained." Max shook his head. "You don't want balance. You want control." Morton gestured and his mercenaries raised their rifles. "Hand over the heart, Harker. You're not the chosen one here." Before Max could respond, a new voice echoed through the chamber, deep, calm, commanding. "Enough." A man stepped from the far corridor, flanked by figures in old Terran uniforms. His hair was silver, his bearing unmistakably military. His eyes, Harker eyes, studied Max with quiet recognition. "I am Commander Thomas Harker, great-grandson of Captain James Harker," he said. "And you, cousin, have brought us exactly what we needed." Confusion rippled through the room. Max lowered his weapon. "You're alive, the crew survived." "More than survived," Thomas replied. "We adapted. The Prometheus was designed as a generational ship. When we realized the technology aboard could end all wars or start infinite new ones, we hid. We've waited for humanity to grow wise enough to handle it." Alaraya's tone dripped disbelief. "You mean you've been hoarding it?" Morden's voice hardened. "And now it belongs to those with the will to use it." Thomas's expression darkened. "You misunderstand. The Matrix isn't just a shield. It's aware. It chooses its guardian by genetic imprint. The Harker line is the only one who can activate it." He looked straight at Max. "That's why you were led here." Max's mouth went dry. "You mean, this ship, this weapon needs me?" Thalia's fingers brushed his arm, her fear spiking through the link. "If you activate it, they'll all kill you for control." Thomas nodded grimly. "That's why you'll have to choose quickly who to trust." The stalemate stretched. Mercenaries tightened grips on triggers. Guards raised shields. Thalia moved closer to her sister. The heart pulsed like a second sun in Max's hand. And then alarm screamed. The ship itself came alive. Lights shifted from white to crimson. Thomas's officers shouted readings from terminals. Unidentified vessels entering the system. Multiple signatures. Morden snarled. "Your fleet," Thomas shook his head. "No, something else." A new hologram appeared above the Commandeus, alien symbols scrolling rapidly. Thalia paled. "Those transmissions, they're not Krex. They're beyond known space." Thomas's face hardened. The Matrix detected them centuries ago. A species older and hungrier than any empire in this galaxy. "They're coming." The chamber trembled as distant explosions rippled through the nebula. Everyone looked to Max. Thomas's voice was calm, resolute. "You can fight over this power, or you can use it to unite us. Humanity, Lyelians, even the Krex will stand together or die separately." Morden glared. "You expect me to believe that fairy tale Max holstered his gun? I don't care what you believe. I care what's true." He turned to Thalia. "If this works, the Matrix will link to every mind within range. It'll need an anchor." She nodded. "Then you won't do it alone." Their hands met over the stellar heart. Energy surged, blinding and pure. The gems shattered into light that wrapped around them both. The ship's systems responded, awakening fully. The walls pulsing like veins, the hum rising into a choir of power. Through the glow, Max saw Thalia's face and eyes wide, lips trembling, the bond between them blazing hotter than ever. "If I don't make it, you will," she whispered, "because I'll be with you." He smiled. "Then let's make history." The Prometheus roared as the Matrix came online. Across the stars, the first wave of the unknown enemy pierced the nebula, and the human ship met them with a brilliance that split the dark. The Prometheus came alive as though awakening from a centuries-long dream. Every wall pulsed with radiant veins of blue-white energy. The floor thrummed beneath their feet like the heartbeat of a god. The adaptive defense matrix, humanity's most dangerous legacy, was fully awake. Max stood at the command dais beside Thalia, their hands still linked by a lattice of living light. On the display before them, thousands of red signals emerged from the void ships of unknown origin. Sleek black insectoid forms gliding through the nebula like predators tasting blood. Thomas Harker's voice carried over the roar of the engines. "They're breaching the outer perimeter, estimated 2 minutes to weapons range." Alaraya's tone turned sharp. So the bogeyman was real after all. "Congratulations, Commander. You were right to hide." Morden snarled. "Enough talk. Activate the Matrix and obliterate them." Max ignored both of them, staring at the holographic interface swirling in front of him. It wasn't a control panel. It was alive, shifting, and responding to his thoughts. When he focused, it pulsed brighter. "It's reading me," he whispered. Thomas nodded. "The system recognizes your genetic signature. You are the key." Thalia squeezed his hand. "Then we act together." The moment their thoughts aligned, the Matrix responded like a symphony tuning to its conductor. Light poured through the ship, connecting them to every subsystem, every defense turret, every sensor. Max could feel the Prometheus breathing. Outside, the alien fleet formed an attack wedge. Their weapons discharged streams of violet plasma that tore through the nebula, lighting the void like a sunrise made of fire. But the Matrix didn't merely block them, it adapted. A shimmering golden shield enveloped the Prometheus, absorbing the energy and refracting it into a spiral of defensive counterwaves. The enemy's fire ricocheted back, tearing through their own formation. The observation deck shook as shockwaves rippled through space. Thomas grinned fiercely. "It's working." Morton laughed, greed gleaming in his reptilian eyes. "With this power, we could rule the galaxy. No one could stand against us." Max shot him a glare. "That's exactly why we hit it." Alaria folded her arms. "And yet here you are wielding it like a sword." Sometimes Max said a sword's the only way to make peace. The enemy regrouped, splitting their fleet into two wings and launching boarding pods toward the Prometheus. The Matrix's interface flashed red. "Multiple impacts incoming on the lower decks," Thalia said. "They're coming inside." Thomas barked orders. "All security units to Deck 7, seal bulkheads 8 through 12. If they breach, the ship jolted violently, cutting them off." The lights flickered. One of the pods had made it through. The sounds of gunfire echoed down the corridor outside the command center. Max grabbed his weapon. "I'll handle it." Thalia stepped forward. "You're not going alone. You need to stay here and keep the Matrix stable." She looked him dead in the eye. "Then you'll die without me." He opened his mouth to argue and stopped. The truth in her expression was iron. "Fine," he said, "but if I die, I'm haunting you." Her grin flashed. "You already do." They ran through the corridor together side by side as the ship rocked under impacts. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Ahead, the bulkhead doors were forced open by claws of black metal aliens pouring through. They were tall and skeletal, their armor grown rather than forged, their eyes burning like dying suns. When they moved, their limbs made sounds like cracking bone. Max fired first. The plasma bolts ripped through two of them, splattering iridescent ichor. Thalia joined him, moving with alien grace, using her species' bioluminescent energy to blind and strike in the same motion. The fight was brutal and close. One of the creatures lunged at Thalia, impaling her arm with a blade-like appendage. She hissed, twisting her body to tear free, green blood spattering across the walls. Max's vision tunneled. He shot the attacker point-blank in the skull. "Thalia, I'm fine," she gasped. "Just keep fighting." They pushed forward until the last of the intruders fell. Smoke curled around their boots. Thalia leaned against the wall, clutching her wounded arm. Max tore off part of his sleeve and wrapped it tight around the injury. She met his eyes and smirked weakly. "Humans and their need to play hero." "You're one to talk," he said, voice shaking. "You're bleeding neon all over my ship." For a moment, they just stood there, two species, two worlds bound by chaos and something stronger. Back in the command chamber, alarms flared again. Thomas shouted, "They're recharging for another volley." The Matrix shield shimmered under the strain. Max and Thalia staggered back inside, sweat and blood streaking their faces. Thomas turned to them. "We can't outlast them. The Matrix is adapting slower with each new attack pattern. It's learning too, but so are they." Max stared at the swirling interface. The patterns reminded him of a pulse, like the rhythm of a heart. Then he understood. "It's not just adapting to the enemy," he said. "It's mirroring us, our intentions. It reflects what we feed it." Thalia frowned. "Then right now, it feels our fear." "Exactly," Max said. "But what if we feed it something else?" Thomas blinked, like what Hope Max said simply. He placed both hands on the console. "Thalia, link with me again." She hesitated, then nodded, pressing her palm against his. The neural bond reignited, brighter than before. The Matrix light pulsed in rhythm with their joined heartbeat. Across the ship, the defensive systems responded not with brute retaliation, but harmony. The shield shifted from gold to white, absorbing energy and projecting an expanding wave of resonance. When the enemy fired again, their own weapons short-circuited feedback, frying their ships from within. In moments, the battlefield went silent. The alien fleet drifted powerless amid the nebula's glow. Alaria broke the silence first. "You did it," she whispered. "You stopped them." Morden's eyes gleamed with manic hunger. "No, he controls it now, which means he decides who lives and dies." He lunged toward the dais, drawing a concealed blade. Thalia shouted, but Max was faster, grabbing Morden's wrist and driving a knee into his gut. The Krek snarled, slashing wildly. Max twisted the blade free and turned it back on him. Morton froze, panting, the point at his throat. You won't kill me. You're too civilized. Max's voice was quiet, steady. You're right, but the Matrix remembers. A surge of energy coursed through the floor. Morton screamed as light engulfed him, disintegrating him into ash that scattered like dust. Silence again. Thomas looked grim but approving. The Matrix judged him as a threat. It acts through your will, Max. Be careful how you think. Trust me, Max said softly. That terrifies me more than anyone else. The enemy fleet's wreckage drifted like dark petals through the nebula. Emergency repair drones already buzzed across the Prometheus's hull, sealing damage, regenerating structure. It was as if the ship knew victory had to be followed by healing. In the aftermath, the survivors gathered in the command deck. Alaria stood apart, arms folded. So this is humanity's great triumph, one man with godlike power, and a woman whose kiss started a war. Thalia's eyes narrowed and ended one. Alaria's lips curled, but she didn't argue. Thomas approached Max quietly. You've done more than reactivate a weapon. You've awakened a legacy. The Matrix can unify the galactic networks it can predict. Conflict balance resources, prevent extinction. Max looked out the viewport, watching the wreckage glitter among the stars, or enslave everyone under one man's definition of peace. Thomas nodded solemnly. Which is why you can't stay here. What? The Matrix must have a guardian who lives by its code, not by politics or greed. You'll take the Prometheus beyond charted space. Keep it hidden. Teach it humanity's better side. Thalia stepped forward. Then I go with him. Thomas studied her, then smiled faintly. I expected nothing less. They stood together later on the observation deck, the nebula painting the glass in gold. The ship was quiet now, almost peaceful. The hum of the Matrix sounded like a distant heartbeat, steady, alive. Thalia rested her head against Max's shoulder. Do all your adventures end like this? Usually with more broken bones, he said, and fewer kisses. She chuckled softly, the sound like distant chimes. Among my people, sharing breath is sacred. But what we shared, it was more. He turned to face her. You sure you're okay leaving everything behind? I already left once, she said. This time I choose it. Outside, the nebula flared and the Prometheus began its slow drift toward the unknown. On the comm channel, Thomas's voice echoed one last time. Remember, Max, humanity's greatest strength isn't its weapons. It's its heart. Don't let the galaxy forget that. Max shut off the channel and smiled. Guess we've got a lot to teach, huh? Thalia's hand slid into his. Then let's start with lesson 1. She kissed him soft and deliberate. No misunderstanding this time. No cultural confusion. Just two souls, two species, and one promise whispered between them. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, waiting. The Prometheus vanished into hyperspace, a streak of light, carrying humanity's hope and its heart into the next chapter of history. Epilogue, the greeting that saved the galaxy. Centuries later, historians would debate how first contact nearly ended civilization, how one human detective and one alien woman changed everything. They would call it the Prometheus Accord, the birth of the Galactic Unity Fleet. But in the private archives of the Harker line, one recording would remain the captain's final note written in Max's own voice. It began with a misunderstanding, a kiss that wasn't meant as love, and yet somehow it became the thing that saved us all.